What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. Chance and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in everyone to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell, and of course in the background DK running the sticks. We are here to talk about Week 4. We got a big matchup coming up with the Ravens taking on the Denver Broncos, the undefeated Denver Broncos at Mile High Stadium. So yeah, I'm excited to get into this game. But Jimbo, who is this show brought to us by?
Yeah, so a lot of people are going to be betting on this game, and the best way to do it, guys, is with MyBookie. MyBookie.ag is the sponsor for this show. Shout out to them. Really cool thing about MyBookie right now is that you can receive 100% match on your first deposit up to $1,000 simply by going to the website, signing up, and typing 3 numbers, 410 in the promo code section. Support the show. Go over there and check out MyBookie. Deposit any amount from 0 to 1,000 and get it matched. Go make some money on the Ravens winning this week. Go make some money on another team winning this week. Get into their survivor pool, whatever you prefer. But look, you play, they pay. That's what it is at the end of the day. So go check it out, mybookie.ag. Sponsors of the show, promo code 410. Never been easier to win money. So go check it out. Sponsor of the show. But yeah, Glenn, look, Week 4 is upon us. I was about to say, like, typically this is the quarter of the season mark, but now all the percentages are off with 17 games. But we'll still call it pretty much. We're about to be a quarter of the way through. The Broncos are 3-0. The Ravens are 2-1. Now the Broncos teams that they've played against are now a combined 0-10. The teams that they've beat. So really going to be an interesting game here because certainly the Ravens are their real test. I think the best place for us to start to lay out the context for this matchup would be the health of both teams going into this game. So what do you have from the Broncos side of it as far as health goes?
Yeah, the Broncos have some tough injuries. The Ravens aren't the only team bitten by the injury bug, and Denver certainly has as of late. The big ones are on the offensive line. They got their 2 starting guards. The right guard, Graham Glasgow, is battling a knee injury. He's already been ruled out. And then they have the left guard, Dalton Risner. He got in a limited practice today, but did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. So he's questionable right now. So be on the lookout to replace both of those guys. Got a couple of young guys. Got a rookie and then a second-year player who hasn't played a ton. So look for the Ravens to really take advantage if those young guys are in there. But even if, Risner's able to go, still, he's going to obviously be limited with the injury to his ankle. So the Ravens can certainly look to take advantage. Also limited in practice this week, but expected to play is Melvin Gordon, the running back who's been around. I think he's just kind of getting some, little rest and some nicks and bumps and bruises. But that right now is the main guys that they're. Of course, Bradley Chubb is out for a couple weeks, so we won't have to worry about the pass rush coming from the back or from the other side of Von Miller. But of course, Von Miller is there. But backing up Bradley Chubb is Malik Reed, who did practice in full all week and was the team leader in sacks last year, filling in for Von Miller. So still got to worry about that pass rush. They still got some guys that can certainly get up the field and get after Lamar. But let's just hope for the Ravens' sake that these injuries to the offensive linemen take one more week to heal, and that the Ravens' defensive front can kind of feast on those young guys up front.
Yeah, certainly between the injuries to their offensive line and then the injuries to their receiving options.
Yeah, I didn't even touch on that, did I, Jimbo?
Yeah, no, I think that's another one to talk about. So let's see, they got Judy out.
Judy's out. Jerry Jeudy, number 1 pick last year, he's out.
Yep.
And then Kenny Hamler, KJ Hamler. KJ Hamler, their speedster, who's certainly the big play threat. He's also out this week. So they got some injuries. Now they still have Cortland Sutton on the outside, and they have former Raven, a very brief time, but former Raven still, and Tim Patrick, who's leading their team in touchdowns, who's definitely got some speed, got some height. And then Noah Fant, of course, is their big stud tight end, who we all know tight ends can give the Ravens tough times, although Hawkinson was certainly held in check last week.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely a lot of injuries there, and a lot of which we want every team to be 100%. We want the Ravens to be at 100%. We'd prefer it that way, but the reality is there is an opportunity for the Ravens to take advantage of some situations where they're now a little light on experience and talent. But as far as the Ravens go, I know that we also have some injuries. Number one, of course, our boy Lamar Jackson is back as a full participant in practice, which is great to see. You can see here up on the screen, of course, Ronnie Stanley's still out. And I think, Glenn, you mentioned that they're going to decide to go the rehab route as far as that goes. Really unfortunate that Derek Wolfe is, has been a non-factor all year, and it's really up in the air as far as when he'll be back. And of course, I'm sure he wants to play more than anyone against his former team. The other guys between Justin Houston and then Calais Campbell are really more than anything vet days, I'm sure. But Anthony Averett's another big one. Questionable, went out with the quad last week. That's a little bit concerning for me. Or no, excuse me, not the quad. I'm thinking of
Deshaun Elliott, yeah.
Deshaun Elliott went out with the quad, right?
And
Deshaun
he's
went out
still
with
not practicing.
right, and he wasn't practicing as well. And then Averett, I mean, that's it's not good. That's not the deepest spot for us either. But you can see the list here. I think obviously Marlin and all these guys at the bottom that are full participants in the limited participation list. And these guys you think won't see the field?
Well, I'm not so sure Geno Stone was going to see a ton of action if he
Sorry, I
was
mean like be
healthy.
active, like on game day.
Yeah, I mean, I think all those guys that are limited will be active, and I'm
Yeah, me
hopeful
too.
a couple of those did not participate get out there, because if you don't have Elliott and you don't have Averett,
That's tough.
because obviously Houston and Campbell are just getting vet days, so they'll be out there. But if you don't have Averett and you don't have Elliott, that's going to force Stevens into a bigger role, and that's also going to force Jimmy Smith into a much bigger role. And he's just returning from injury and didn't. He played, I think, 30% of the snaps last week. So if Averett's out, then boom, he's going to go a lot higher than 30%.
Yep.
And we want to keep Jimmy healthy, so I don't want to rush him back into a large role and then risk re-injury, along the way.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll mention too about Stevens is while we've liked his progress, certainly we've seen as of late that he's got a ways to go. I think he's got the skills to do it. In fact, one of the things that you and I were talking about the Chiefs game was it was cool to see him back there directing some traffic, but I don't think we're ready for him to be prime time.
Right.
We definitely need a guy like Deshaun Elliott. He needs some more time,
And
and it's no knock on him. I mean, he's transitioning from position for the second year in a row, right?
yeah, yeah, and also if you're going into that thin air, and we're going to talk about this a lot, you need rotation, you need depth, because these guys are going to get tired. So even just not having them out there, just from a depth, and standpoint, that means the guys who are going to be forced to play more are going to be battling that thinner air, and they're going to get tired a lot
Oh,
quicker.
and let me tell you what, anybody that thinks that's nonsense, you're wrong. It is so real. I mean, having lived at 4,000 feet above sea level, you go out there, it takes a solid 3 weeks. I mean, you're walking around and you're, it
That's
takes you a
crazy.
second, man. You get cotton mouth real fast and everything else. So you're absolutely right. We need depth this week. It is a legitimate advantage for them. So certainly I agree with you that all eyes on Deshaun Elliott and Anthony Averett as far as the Ravens injury report goes and who shows up on Sunday. All right, so we've gotten through that, Glenn. We kind of have an idea as to who's going to be playing and who's not. I think something else that's important to do here is go through what these teams have done. We have a little bit of a sample size, while not large. We have a little bit of what obviously the Ravens have done and what the Broncos have done. And talk about some standouts and things like that. So let's go ahead and hop over to this matchup, the Broncos defense and the Ravens offense, and we'll start with the Broncos defense. You got some stats for us as far as the Broncos defense goes?
I do, and it's impressive. If you just look at the rankings and the numbers they're turning in. So first of all, in points against, they're first in the league. They've given up a total of 26 points through their first 3 games. That's pretty damn impressive in 3 games to give up just 26 points. And they're second in the league in yards, giving up 665 in 3 weeks. And then as far as you break it down, pass versus run, they're phenomenal. They're top 3 in both. They're third in giving up 487 passing yards so far, and second in the league, giving up 178 ground yards so far. So, I mean, there's really you'd be hard pressed to find a spot where they're not performing well defensively. Now, I'm sure that's been aided by the fact that they played maybe the 3 worst teams in football, but they did what you're supposed to do. If you're a good team and you play the 3 worst teams, you're supposed to beat the crap out of them, and they certainly have, and that's capped on their last time out where they beat the Jets 26-0.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. It's hard to say because I think at the beginning of the 2019 season, right, we had a pretty weak schedule there as well, and people were giving us a little bit of
Yeah, it was the
crap.
Dolphins season when we beat the crap out of them to start. Yep.
Yeah, but certainly you can only play who's on your schedule, and you got to
Yeah.
be prepared to do so. Obviously, people were picking us to blow out the Lions, and we squeaked one out only in historic fashion, right? It literally took a moment in history for us to win in Detroit there. So yeah, something really interesting. And you brought a guy up, Glenn, that I want to talk about here. Their defense is playing really well. Von Miller is really a defensive motor captain for them.
Yep.
So I have some ideas, but I'd like to know your thoughts. How do the Ravens best mitigate his impact on this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to do is to try and wear him out, right? You run at Von Miller, you run at him, and I want to see some more of that game plan we saw against the Chiefs, where they run some more of that, the QB option. You know, if he wants to pull it, and then you don't even have to you don't have to block him as much because it's really reading him and letting him to tell you what you want to do. If he wants to stay flat footed and guard Lamar Jackson, you hand it off up the middle. And if he dives inside to take the running back, then Lamar pulls it out of his belly and runs around him. So you kind of take him out of the play and without having to even block a guy, like that. So I think that's what you would do. And then on passing downs, you got to chip them. You cannot leave any of these tackles one-on-one with Von Miller. I don't care which side. I don't care how well they've been playing because both have been playing a lot better. Patrick McCarry has been an absolute stud at right tackle, which is something I never thought I would say. But either way, you got to chip him with a tight end. I don't think we're going to see much of Andrews at the end of the line. He typically is out in the slot. So whichever tight end is in there, chip him. If you got a back in there, let's cross our fingers and hope he can do something to help because Von Miller's got 4 sacks. 4 of their 8 sacks as a team are Von Miller, and that's just in 3 games. So the guy's still Von Miller. He's still a terror. But the Ravens in the past have done a good job at slowing down the other team's best pass rusher. I look back at that Chiefs game. They shut down Chris Jones. The guy didn't record a single statistic outside of snap count and time played. So hopefully they have the same success over Von Miller, but we both know he's certainly a challenge and a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was exactly my idea is that the way that you mitigate Von is you get him winded and you get physical with him. Von Miller is known for a lot of positive things. He's certainly not the biggest guy at his position. He's quick, he's strong, he's got great instincts and things like that. But you run at him, you continue to run that football at him. That's not a situation where, Terrell Suggs is an easy example. It's not as easy to run at a Terrell Suggs because he's physically dominating. He's a much bigger man than a Von Miller, where Von depends on different things and has a much different style. So I would agree with you 100%. Running at Von Miller is what we need to do. And look, we know how to run the football. You want to talk about some stats here that you gave for the Broncos on the other end of that matchup. Of course, on the Ravens side, just to give you a few things, it's still incredible to me, Glenn, that we are averaging, and unless my math is wrong here, we are averaging 185 yards per game on the ground on 32 rushes, 5.7 per attempt. I mean, that's really impressive. I think that's right where we need to start, and we'll get to that in a bit. But also in the air, we're not too shabby either. We've seen the statistic that Lamar Jackson is leading the league in yards per attempt and yards per carry, which is also pretty incredible. So, he's averaging 253 a game.
Yep.
253 a game at this point. And so,
air.
Yeah, exactly. In the air. Yeah. 250 in the ground. Could you imagine that?
Well, if you put them both together, yeah, it's a lot more. Just 253 just in the air. Yeah, it's pretty good though.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff there. So, from an offensive standpoint, looking at how we match up against the Broncos, the rankings are what they are, like you talked about. I mean, offensively right now we're 6th. in the league, and of course, number 1 in rushing and 20 in passing. So one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the season was like just being in the top half as far as passing goes.
Yeah.
Right? Like just be in the top half. And I think we still have a path forward to get there. And I'm not surprised our rushing is number 1. But I want to know from you, Glenn, what do you see as a key to the game offensively here based on what we know so far about this matchup?
Yeah, I think if you look at the defense of the Denver Broncos, they're certainly made to rush the passer and defend the pass. That's what they want to do. They want to get a lead. They want to get after your quarterback, and they want to defend through the air. They got a very talented, maybe the most talented safety tandem in the league, and then they have a really great group of cornerbacks in front of those guys. And then you have Von Miller and Malik Reed and others that are going to go after your quarterback. So they're built to defend the pass, which is, that sounds good to me, right? Because the Ravens are certainly built to run the ball, and I think that's where they're weakest, is defending the run. So my key to the game is just to dominate on the ground. Wear down Von Miller, wear down Malik Reed, keep the time of possession in your favor. Just dominate on the ground. I want to see a similar approach and similar game plan that we saw against the Chiefs. I mean, I want to see, you can't totally abandon the passing game. I do want to see, continue to see those shots down the field. That stat you mentioned earlier, it was actually yards per completion that he's
Oh yeah,
he's leading the league in. And that's what we really wanted. We know that they're never going to be a volume passing team, but if you can increase your efficiency and you can make the most of those completions like they've been doing so far, and actually, if we didn't lead the league in drop rate, which I think the Ravens right now are 11%, which is just absolutely horrible. If they could hold on to the ball, imagine where those numbers would be, right, Jimbo? Because he's already leading the league. And I think we both know it missed a ton of big shots where the ball was there and it just wasn't held on to. So I don't think you totally abandon. I'm not saying you abandon the pass game, but you dominate on the ground and you pick times to take shots and pick up some chunk plays through the air. But first and foremost, dominate on the ground. You got to do. I want to see a heavy mix of the backs, but also I'm hopeful Lamar's back is feeling good because I want to see some Lamar Jackson running down the field as well. We didn't see a ton of that in the Detroit game.
Yeah, no, obviously he is the spark plug to that run game, right? Like, I mean, without him, it's a much different scenario. So I think that's a great point. And I think adding to that, this reference as far as my key to the game more has to do with the passing game, but I think it's kind of all encompassing. It's really just finishing plays and putting them to bed early. Teddy Bridgewater is not built to bring a team back. We're not talking about Tom Brady. We're not talking about Peyton Manning. Aaron Rodgers, right? Teddy Bridgewater is a great game manager, and he'll have value in the league for a long period of time. But if we can get up early on them, get out in front, and have them play from behind, it's to no team it's their advantage, but it's going to be to even more their disadvantage based on who they have under center, the lack of the offensive line. We can pin our ears back, get after them, and then the lack of depth they have a wide receiver. So offensively, finishing plays. Hollywood, I'm talking to you. Finish the play, right? Now, whether it's running or not, finish the play. And I think that in doing so, I mean, you talked about that. That's incredible to think about how much those zeros are killing that average and how much more his average would be out in front. It's just mind-boggling to think about. So certainly my key to the game offensively is finishing plays. DK, what do you got? Get the wide receivers involved early. Build the deception. Okay, interesting, Glenn, because that's kind of opposite of your take.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't mind seeing some of these guys get some confidence, and I think getting them the ball early would certainly build their confidence if they can hold on to it. But and really, any way to get that run game going, if you're telling me that you use the air to get the ground going, I'm fine with that. I do think that that the Broncos are just built to defend the throw a lot more. So I don't want to see a situation where we get a little throw happy early on, and that causes short time, time possession, early 3 and outs, and then the ball's back in their hands. Because I think your point of finishing the drives is a good one because the Broncos don't turn the ball over. Like Teddy Bridgewater's yet to throw an interception. You mentioned he's a game manager, and he's really good at that. He doesn't make mistakes. Yeah, he doesn't necessarily make all the big plays and push the ball down the field and put up crazy numbers, but he also doesn't throw the throw the ball to the other team. So you're not going to get a ton of possession. So I think you have to make the most of all of them. So I don't want to see a scenario where they come out and try and throw and don't have success, and then they have an early 3-and-out. The defense is on the field, and that run attack is starting to wear our guys down rather than the other way around.
Right. No, for sure. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's gonna be really interesting. And my biggest concern would be with DK's key to the game. It's almost like it's an all-in type thing, because that can pay off really early. We could get up 14-0.
Yeah.
Them anticipating the run and us hitting them where they're strongest, right?
Yep.
2 times, 2 touchdowns, call it good. Or it could be a pick six, or it could be, interception. And then we're having to dig out of a hole, and they're in total advantage because they're playing from ahead, which is what they want. Every team wants to play ahead, but that's what they're really, really built for. So certainly an interesting one. All right, let's move over to our breakout player of the game offensively. I think this is going to be interesting, Glenn, because certainly I would pick anyone at this point offensively from the Baltimore Ravens. But I'm going to go first here. And I'm going to say, while he had a big game yardage wise last week, he has not found the end zone this year. And that is Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, to me, is still the the fourth best tight end in the NFL, only behind the three-headed monster of Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller in Vegas. And I think Mark Andrews is nipping on their heels, but he needs to get in the end zone. Mark Andrews makes millions of dollars to catch it on third down and get in the end zone. So I'm predicting a 2-touchdown game from our guy, Mark Andrews, in this game as my offensive breakout player.
Yeah, and I think you could very well be right there, because he is certainly talented. But to me, I think they try and get Lamar's number one target back on track. My breakout player is Hollywood Brown. He had a
redemption, huh?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm gonna buy into the fact that the guy we saw the previous 10 games is more him than the guy we saw last game. Because I think if you look at the previous 10, he was absolutely phenomenal. He was the third highest rated receiver through the first 2 games of the season. And the guy was just a big play threat waiting to happen, but he was also getting those yak yards and turning the short gain into bigger gain, something we hadn't seen in years prior. So I think he cleans up those drops. Look, he said it himself. He worked far too hard this offseason to improve his separation in his route running. He's done that. It was clear even when he was dropping the ball that he was doing that at a very high level. So I think that continues. I think they get his confidence going, get him a couple easy catches early, and then maybe catch him on a deep shot somewhere throughout the game. So I think Hollywood bounces back and has a big game.
I like it. That's definitely going to be a really interesting one to see based on the mental dynamics of it, right? Like, how does he react to this last game?
Because if we see early drops, Jimbo, what happens to his confidence? What happens to the team's confidence in him if he finds himself wide open and boofing some more catches?
And knowing that, I mean, good and well, even if he's a team first guy, that nipping on his heels is going to be Rashad Bateman. He's going to start hearing it. He's going to start losing targets because, believe you me, as soon as Rashad Bateman hits that field, his targets are going down. Right now, it's time for him to make some hay, right? Yep. And so he needs to do that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But you're right, the separation is there. I mean, you're right. He worked. I like that he said that he worked too hard to get good at that, to be dropping these balls. So that's a great one. Now, DK, who you got? Tyson Williams. He's been efficient giving the rock.
Yeah, I think DK's been riding the Tyson Williams train for a while now, hoping that it takes off. And this could be very, very well the week. I think that what I like about it is that the guy's averaging 6.1 yards an attempt on the ground. So, I mean, it's not for lack of taking advantage of his opportunities. He's just not getting a ton of opportunities. And then the guy who has been getting the bulk of the opportunities, at least as of late, has been Latavius Murray, who's only averaging 3.5 yards a carry on the ground. So definitely looks like Tyson should get the bulk of the work. I think the issue with Tyson has been his pass protection has not been up to par, which forces him off the field in key situations. And that might force his role to be shortened and lessened as the year goes on and as Latavius gets more acclimated with the offense. And also, could we see for the first time this year an appearance of Lev Bell? I mean, What's your take on that backfield, Jimbo? Is Tyson going to have the opportunity to take advantage of?
It's really frustrating me because two things. One, I want to see Le'Veon Bell out there. Two, I also agree with what DK is saying because you know what he sounds like? He sounds like me with Gus Edwards the past, 3 years?
Just give him the ball.
Yeah, just give him the ball, man, because he's done nothing but good things with the ball in his hands. The only difference is that I do think that obviously Gus is gifted in his physical ability to make things happen when they're not there for him in front of him. Tyson doesn't have quite the physical prowess, but nonetheless, the stats are what they are, and he has done everything he can to deserve the football. So it's going to be interesting. DK has been, like you said, been riding Tyson for a long time. I don't know if this week that it pays off because I'd love to see Le'Veon out there. I can tell you one thing. I don't think we see geez whiz, 33 Falcons guy.
Devonta?
Yeah, I don't think we see Freeman out there. So it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, look, I prepare. I'm expecting a big game on the ground for the Ravens, so someone's going to pick up the yardage.
Yeah, someone's
and
got
I
to be
hope
there.
it is Tyson Williams because
Well, what do you think are the chances that Le'Veon ends up out there?
Well, I think they're high because of the tweets that we've seen from Lev Bell. He tweeted out, I can't remember exactly, but it was
cartoon
like
character walking back and forth, like waiting for his turn.
Yeah, and then he said something. I wish I had it in front of you. Basically, he's indicating that he was getting some good news that he was going to be out there. Now he didn't come out and say it, but just reading between the lines, I think he's going to get an opportunity. Now, whether he's active and whether he gets a huge role in the game is two different things. So I don't know what his role will be, but I think this is going to be a heavy run scheme and a heavy run game plan. So I'm hopeful that Tyson gets some carries because I think he's deserved it. I think he's earned it. He's played well all offseason, preseason, and in the regular season so far. So I hope we see some more of him. And honestly, I'm hoping to see some Nate McCrary at some point this season. I don't know if we'll see him yet this game, but I wouldn't be mad seeing Nate McCrary as well. I thought he played really well in the offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I'll say about the backfield situation is that I'm going out on a limb. If Le'Veon is indeed out there, he's getting a tutty. He's getting a receiving touchdown. I think he has a few passes come his way, similar to what they've been doing, stretching out the field horizontally with Tyson. We have seen that. I think they do the same thing with Le'Veon Bell. I think he gets some touches, makes the best of one, takes it to the house. I think he has a good game if he's out there. So going to be really interesting to see whether he is or not. But let's kind of, turn the coin over to the other side here and talk about the Broncos offensive matchup against the Ravens defense. I want to give you some stats here. And this is so funny to me because their offense statistics are emblematic of their quarterback. They're middle of the road and everything. They don't stink at anything. They're not great at anything. They're 14th in passing, middle of the road, 10th in rushing, middle of the road, right? Like that's Teddy Bridgewater's fingerprints all the way. So just to give you some hard numbers here, right now they're scoring 25 points a game. Let's see here. They're averaging, nothing crazy, but I mean, certainly they're doing good. 127 rushing yards per game. They've got 3 rushing touchdowns. Like you said, 0 interceptions. He is not turning the ball over. And, about 260 yards a game is what they're averaging in the air. So a very interesting offense in that there's the only real chink in their armor right now is the lack of explosion, right? Like big play potential right now. And a lot of it has to do with their quarterback, but also their limitations from health. So I would say their biggest one right now is their health. But offensively for them, who is a guy, Glenn, that the Ravens and all of us fans should be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, they got a former Raven on their squad that I think we gotta keep our eyes on. Tim Patrick, who was here very briefly, showed some signs in the return game when he was here, and definitely had some moments, but didn't ultimately make the team. Well, he made the team for Denver, and he's so thus far in the season he's got 12 catches for 174 yards, but most importantly he's got 2 touchdowns, which leads their team. And they only have 4 total in the air, and he's got 2 of them. So watch out for Tim Patrick. Now, the good thing is they just don't have a great matchup this week, because the Ravens have a guy named Marlon Humphrey, who I think is going to be matched up between him and Cortland Sutton, who's also their other big play guy through the air. And neither one I don't think have elite enough speed to really run by him. And I think his physicality is going to give these guys fits. But you still got to watch out for these guys. As good as Humphrey is, he still gives up catches just like they all do. So watch out for Tim Patrick, because a lot of times when they know one of their guys is playing their former team, they try and make them a big part of the offensive game plan. So I think
big time.
Watch out for Patrick being a primary guy in their game plan this week.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on, and we'll certainly do so. How about on the defensive side of the ball for the Ravens, Glenn?
Yeah, so the Ravens have, it's surprisingly statistically not been very good defensively. Now, they had a little bit better time last week, but they started the season so poorly that they definitely have a hole to dig out of. So right now, points against, they're 26th in the league. They've given up 85 points thus far through 3 games. They're 24th in yardage given up, 30th in passing yardage. So, I mean, wow, that's horrendous. So they've given up 944 yards, so about 315 through the air per game.
Man, we're missing Juice Man these days.
Ooh, we're missing. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the key guy right there that they're really missing. Now, still been pretty good on the ground. They're 8th in the league, giving up 237 yards thus far on the season. So still pretty good defending on the ground. And the good thing is they're getting some of their big guys back up front, because I think the Lions had some plays and some moments last week where they really took advantage of those guys missing in the interior and had some success on the ground between what was it, Jamal Williams? Is that what the name?
Yeah, well, Jamal Williams. Yep, and then Swift.
And DeAndre Swift, who DeAndre Swift was catching a lot of balls out of the backfield, taking advantage of the running of the linebackers, but Jamal Williams is getting between the tackles and playing really well. So hopefully Brandon Williams, Justin Metabike, and Justin Houston coming back can really help seal that up, because I think the Broncos are going to look to run the ball, no doubt about it. And I think they're going to be in for some tough sledding with their injuries up front and the Ravens returning some of the big hogs and the Monstars. I think it could be some tough sledding for them. And I hope so, because if they get the ball rolling on the ground, opens up their passing game, and it could be a long afternoon for the Ravens.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we've been breaking down the defensive side of things and talking about their offensive player to watch and things like that. But I want to know, DK, we'll start with you. Prediction-wise, who is your defensive breakout player? DK, who you got, my man? Odafe Owe. If he's going to keep his name in the mouths of opponents, he has to keep showing. I like it. I like this one. I think that's definitely a high likelihood that he has a productive game. He'll probably see a lot of Garrett Bowles, of course, and Garrett Bowles, as much as I like him as a former Ute, really struggles with speed. Obviously, has a history of holding penalties, and Odafe Owe might be he's certainly one of the fastest guys at his position. So that will be interesting. I like it. Glenn, who you got?
Yeah, I got opposite him. I got Justin Houston. I think he had the week off, after the close contact issue, and I think he's going to be rejuvenated, and I think he's going to look to have his statement game. I think he's obviously made a difference on the field, no doubt about it, but he hasn't had that big impact game yet, and I think this is where we see it this week. They're struggling up front. They're going to have some interchangeable. They're going to have some pieces kind of going in and going out. It's going to cause some confusion. I think Wink draws up some nice stuff, and Justin Houston's the beneficiary of that, and he gets a couple of sacks this week. What do you think, Jimbo?
All right, so I'm going to split the difference with you guys. Originally, I was really thinking about Metabike, but I'm going to go with Calais Campbell. If you recall at the beginning of the season, I say Calais Campbell is going to lead our team in sacks, and I still think he has a chance to do that based on no one being the torchbearer when it comes to sacks at this point, and it be kind of spread around. I think he gets a sack. I also think he gets a pass deflection that turns into an interception. I think he takes advantage and he feasts on these young guys up front for them. Does his thing in there. So I think that Calais Campbell is my breakout defensive player of the game. Now, interesting that we all picked guys that are frontline defenders, if you will, right? They're edge rushers or an interior guy. are there any other guys that you see other than, guys that are playing up front as potential breakouts? Now, I'm going to throw a name out there. Is there
Okay.
any way we talked about offensive redemption? PQ, Patrick Queen has been drugged through the mud and the coals, rightfully so, all week. Is there any way that he balls out this week?
I think that's the name I would have guessed, Jimbo,
Okay.
because they want to give him confidence, right? We always talk about how much confidence does for any athlete. So I think that look for him to get a sack. They like to blitz him here and there, use his speed. He comes through like a blur, and I think that that's where he can make his impact. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater takes care of the ball, so I'm not going to come out here and predict that Patrick Queen is somehow going to become Ray Lewis in coverage and take the ball the other way. So I'm not crazy, but I do think that we could see an opportunity where he's sent on a blitz and he gets to Teddy Bridgewater and maybe forces a punt. And I'll take that at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. Really some interesting ones there. Yeah, we'll be looking forward to that. Let us know as well in the comments, of course, who your offensive and defensive players or breakout players of the game are. But more than anything, in the comments of this video, participate in our weekly competition. We're going to get into it right now for our over-under and closest to the pin competition. We've had Troy's one so far, anonymous YouTubers one so far, and Edwin Nevado has won so far. And I know that a few of them already got their shirts on the way. I know Troy should be getting his soon. So make sure to send us a picture, DM us a picture, or tag us anywhere on social media with your shirt on. But the prize is a 410 Sports Talk shirt. We'll send it right to your house. And this is how you win. You are the most accurate in our over-under categories, and then the most accurate in our tiebreaker situations where they're closest to the pin stuff. So let's break down the categories this week. What do we got, Glenn?
Yeah, so the first over-under I think is a really good and interesting topic here, and it's surrounding our number one receiver right now, at least, and that's Marquise Hollywood Brown.
Soldier
and
Brown.
surrounding, yeah, exactly, Soldier Brown, and I'm actually highlighting his targets in this one. So I'm not asking yards, I'm not asking catches, none of that. I'm asking targets because I'm interested to see what the coach's response and what Lamar's response is to him having 3 drops and a half, and how they decide to handle this. So I set it at 7.5 targets. And I'll start off. I think they're going to go over. I think they're going to try and give this guy confidence. I think they're going to try and make sure he knows that he's still, a guy that they know they can count on in big moments. He's been our most dependable guy on the outside. I mean, obviously, Mark Andrews and him are the 2 names there that as far as dependability. But I think if you guys remember back in some of those games where we really struggled, it was only Hollywood making plays on the outside for a long, long time. So I'm gonna ride with my guy Hollywood. I think he bounces back in a big way. So I think over in targets. I think he gets somewhere between 8 and 10.
Wow. All right. That's really interesting. And just as a note, if you want to win at this competition, DK is our reigning champion from last year. He beat the pants off of everyone. So if you want to win, just a friendly tip here, at least take in serious consideration his guesses. But I did beat him last week. Just saying. Yep. I did beat him last week. All right. So I am going with under on this one. I think that based on the nature of the game more than anything and the emphasis in the run game, I think it's going to be under. I also think that Mark Andrews is going to get some looks in the red zone, and Lev Bell could get his hands on a couple of receptions. So not that they're trying to shy away from him or don't have confidence in him. I'm going under simply because I think the nature of the way the game unfolds.
Fair enough.
DK,
all right, DK, what do you got?
Yeah.
Under. Well, you're both wrong, but that's okay that you're both wrong. I don't judge, but no, I can understand. I mean, I definitely think it's going to be a run-heavy game plan, but I just think that Lamar, that's his guy, man. So we'll see what happens, but you guys could obviously could be right here, but let us know. Don't forget, guys, put your over-unders. But let's move on to the next one, Lamar Jackson passing yard. I think everyone is shocked. Well, maybe everyone outside of Baltimore is shocked to see Lamar Jackson averaging 253 through the air. And so that's where we set the over-under right at 253.5. Will he go over? Will he go under? I'm going to say he's going to go under because of the fact that I think it's a run-heavy game plan. I don't think he gets to that 253 mark, but if we see some of these long passes that I think they will take a couple shots, if they connect on them, then he very well could go over that number. But right now, I got him at under. What do you think, Jimbo?
Yep, same thing for me. Like I said in the last one, I think he's going under, all based on the nature of this game and the way that it turns out. So Lamar Jackson under on this one. DK, what you got?
Over. No drops this time. I wouldn't be mad, because if they're hitting them through the air, then I think the run game will be no problem. So I certainly hope he's right, and that means we're scoring in bunches. So I'll be rooting for it. But interesting that we're disagreeing on both so far, DK. And I'm going to prepare to rub this in when we come back for the recap, because I think I'm going to be right. But as far as on the defensive side, we got the next over under set for the Broncos time of possession, because I think we all agree time of possession is going to be a big deal. Both teams want to win the time of possession battle in this matchup. It's hard to beat the Ravens in that category, but the Broncos are definitely going to look to do it. Right now, we're setting their over under. We're gonna set it 33-33. So we think right now they're looking to have a slight edge in that, just slight. But to me, I'm going to go under, because I think the Ravens dominate the time, and I don't care who you are. The Ravens are going to dominate the time of possession, because that's just what they do in Baltimore. They take long, methodical drives, and they put up points, and I think they do that again. So I think it's not by much, but I do think the Ravens win the time of possession. So for that reason, under for the Broncos. What do you think, Jimbo?
I'm picking the same thing. The Ravens are like me on the toilet. I take my time.
Oh, my goodness. We did not need to hear.
Yep. And the
about
Baltimore Ravens are so they're going to dominate time of possession.
Jesus.
That's
why you used to always get phone calls when you were sitting on the toilet.
Hey, look, it's when I'd get my thinking done.
Oh my goodness.
It's my thinking time, okay?
All right.
So yeah, absolutely. I'm going under here. Broncos time of possession 33-33. Under. DK?
Under. Okay, it's a clean sweep. We all have confidence in our defense and in our offense. And yeah, I think we're all going to nail that one. But let's see what the other
next
people
one
think.
is fun. So Patrick Queen, total tackles here. We talked about him being a potential redemption player type candidate. So we got it set at 8.5. What's he averaging this year? Isn't that 8. His average? Is it 8? Is his average? So we got it at 8.5. I'm going to go here on this one. I'm going to go over because while I'm not the biggest Patrick Queen fan, he does have the ability to bounce back and have a few big games before he starts to get lackadaisical all over again and make typical Patrick Queen mistakes. So I'm going with over. I think he'll be motivated. Like you said, I think they'll dial some things up for him, and I think he'll make some plays and string it together. So I'm going over. Glenn?
Yeah, I agree. I go over as well. I think that this is a team that also likes to run the ball in the Broncos, and so if you're the middle linebacker, you're going to have an opportunity to make a lot of tackles in a run-heavy scheme. So I just think that the sheer volume of opportunity gets him above that 8.5. But most importantly, I want to see how many missed tackles he has, because he had a couple stinkers last week. The one that really jumps out to me is a play along the sideline. I think it was DeAndre Swift was tight roping the sideline, and he came over and gave such a poor effort. He couldn't even push DeAndre out of bounds. It was pathetic to see. I think if you just watched the tape with him, I don't even know how he could defend it. I mean, it was so pathetic. I could have pushed him out of bounds. I am not a physically gifted man. Like, you should have no problem at least pushing the guy out of bounds. He was tight roping the sideline, and he didn't get enough on him to knock him out of bounds. The guy made a lot more.
He could have done it without using any arms. He could have literally ran into him.
Just something, but he made
put your weight on him.
Yes, just a poor attempt. So, man, let's clean that up, Pat Queen, because if not, the Ravens are going to be in the market for a middle linebacker.
And don't forget, you're not number 44. Stop going after the ball, because first of all, Marlon Humphrey's a better tackler. He secures the tackle first. But I hate the bigger guys. I understand why DBs do it. Sometimes it's a business decision, strategic decision, go after the football. Look, you're a physical guy. Lionel Dalton, we asked him right about the concern about getting run over and guys making business decisions. Not if you're a linebacker, not if you're a defensive lineman, you ain't thinking about that. No way. You know, when it comes to tackling and things like that. So Patrick Queen, don't make business decisions. Go out to that football. Tackle the guy.
Your business is tackling, so you better not be making those decisions. That is literally your primary job as the linebacker. So
that's right. DK, what do you got? Gonna ball out in redemption. He's going over.
I tell you what, I hope he's right, because there is a lot of fans that are checking out and getting off the Pat Queen bandwagon, ready to see a replacement. And if we see an uptick in Josh Bynes' snap count, that is not a good sign for Pat Queen. So let's hope that Bynes continues to stay as an insurance policy, a mentor, a leader, but doesn't take over full-time snaps, because that's not a good sign for the Ravens' future at the middle linebacker spot. But let's get into total yards. This is one of our staples in our over-under, our closest to the pin section. In case there's a tie in the over-unders, this is how we break that tie. So total yards for the Ravens. Give us your exact total for the game. I got to be honest, I took the cheap way out. I took their average, and I put that as my total. I know I'm a schmuck. I'm a clown for that. But I got him at 424 yards because I want to win one. You've won one. DK's won one. And damn it, I want to get in the winner's circle. So 424 is my guess. What do you think, Jimbo?
Well, it's interesting that you did that, because what I did was very similar. I took, you know, if you take their running average at one, I took Lamar's 253, and you like you said, you take the average, put them together. And I just added a little bit on top of it in the run game. So I went a little bit higher than you. Same idea, honestly, though. So I totally get the strategy. I'm going 435 because I think Lamar hits, a little under that 253, but I think the rushing yards will be over that 185 threshold, closer to 210. And so I think that makes up for it. And I'm going Ravens 435 for total offensive yards. DK, it looks like you're riding a little 410 size.
He's just trying. You know what? He prices right at us is what he did. He went under. That way he, because anything below,
no, he picked 410 because of the name. Shameless plug.
That's what it is. Promo code on mybookie.ag.
That's 410. Right, 410.
Save you a couple dollars. Match your first deposit up to $1,000. But
this is not a promo.
This is not a promo. And I do think DK's wrong again, because I'm going to best the both of you in this week's challenge. Yeah, that's right. And I'm going to be bragging about it after the game.
What if you don't?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna. So let's not prepare to lose, or I may do so. So I'm going to focus only on the positive. I will be winning, and I can already see DK tried to copy my score, and that's okay because I don't blame him. But let's get into the total score. This is our other tiebreaker: is total score between the two teams. So I got the Ravens winning this game 27-17. I think they have a defensive. I think they do get a turnover. I don't know if it's from Teddy or one of these running backs. They do have 2 fumbles on the year, but I think it sets up a short field. And for that reason, the Ravens win 27-17. So they win fairly handily, a 10-point win. But I don't think this is an all-game blowout. I think they pull away in the fourth quarter. So my total score is 44. Jimbo, what do you got?
Yeah, once again, very similar. I like the 17 for the Broncos. I'm going to say the Ravens put a little bit more up on the board. I'm going to go with 31-17, total score of 40, or total points at 48, total score 48, 31-17 in favor of our Baltimore Ravens. And remember, guys, when you're thinking of your total score and your win-loss, only guy that picked the Chiefs to win, or excuse me, the Ravens to win, right here. I'll roll with them.
That's right.
All the way to the bank, baby.
He picked them to lose to the Lions, though.
Wait,
no, I didn't.
I was say, wait a second.
I made that up. I made that last part up. Okay.
Okay. That doesn't sound like me. All right, DK, who you got? Or what do you got? What's your score? 24-21 Ravens, and the total score 45. So we got 44, 45, and 48. He is right in the middle of us here. So is this a DK? Let me ask you: is this a Tucker 70-yarder to win this game, to put it away?
I certainly hope it comes down to that. With that thin air, he's got to be, he's got to be good for at least 70. But
the only thing that I would be concerned about, the thin air, he could do it, but if it's windy,
that's true.
That ball's up in the air for 70 yards. It's got a lot of room to waffle.
No doubt about it. Yeah,
so that'll be interesting. But this is going to be an awesome game. 4:25 Eastern game. Make sure you get your popcorn out.
Is it a 425er? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's a 425. That's pathetic.
I
How
should know
pathetic
that.
of you, Glenn. How
Yeah,
pathetic.
I mean, how do I not know that?
I think it was funny how you initially insulted yourself. How pathetic. Like,
It is pathetic. I should know that when I'm doing a preview for the damn game. I should know what time the game starts. I
that's
thought it was a
awesome.
1:00, but that means it's gonna have some national love. And if you guys, after you watch our show, of course, tune in to the Maryland Terps game. They're playing host to Iowa, number 5 in the country, both 4-0. And the Maryland Terps are the real deal this year. I mean, they look really, really good, and apparently they're unveiling the single biggest video board in college sports. They have a 1080p video board, Jimbo, that stretches the entire length of the field. It's the one of its kind. So Kevin Plank certainly putting some money into his alma mater in Maryland. Obviously, Kevin Plank, the owner of Under Armour, and he put a lot of money into that stadium. And yeah, so they're unveiling the big board tonight, Jimbo.
Nice. Former. He cashed out.
Did he?
Yeah, he's out.
Oh, okay. Smart man. Okay. All right. Well, good for him.
He owns
But
a
yeah,
couple
let us know.
islands somewhere.
I'm sure he does. He's got that Under Armour money. And I think he started in his basement. So rightfully so, deservingly so. But let us know what you guys think. Let us know your score. Let us know your yards. Fill in all the over-unders.
Get into the competition, guys.
Absolutely. Get a free shirt. No, everybody likes free stuff. So, why not join in? It doesn't cost you a thing. Let us know what you guys think, and we will talk soon.